Every major market collapse, every unstoppable rally, every fortune built, and every fortune destroyed. All began with one quiet moment, a trend that was about to reverse. Before we dive deep, let me ask you something that separates amateurs from professionals. When the market suddenly shifts direction, do you freeze, react, or anticipate? Comment your answer below, because your instinct here reveals more about your trading identity than your P&L ever will. Now, let me take you into the mind of Jesse Livermore, the man who didn't just trade trends, he stalked reversals, like a hunter waiting for the wind to change. And I want you to hear this in my voice, as if we're sitting in an empty trading floor at dawn. Screens still dark, the world quiet, and your mind wide open. Because what I'm about to tell you is not a strategy. It's a psychological lens, one that once installed in your mind will permanently change how you view every candle, every breakout, every pullback, and every too good to bet true trend you see from this moment on. The birthplace of every trend reversal. A trend reversal doesn't begin with a news event. It doesn't begin with an indicator flashing red or green. It begins with human emotion, shifting weight, like tectonic plates grinding beneath a city before an earthquake. Livermore understood this better than anyone. Markets are never wrong. Opinions often are, and the moment your opinion becomes heavier than the price action itself, that is when you start missing reversals that were quietly screaming at you. Now, imagine this scene. You're in a long position. The trade has been smooth, almost effortless. Your confidence rises, just like the price. And then, a single candle appears. A hesitation, a wick. A sudden surge of volume in the opposite direction. And right there, in that tiny flicker of uncertainty, the market whispers, something just changed. Most traders ignore that whisper. Livermore never did. The setup of a trend's final breath. Every trend, no matter how powerful, how predictable, or how supported by fundamentals, reaches an exhaustion point. A moment when the last buyers buy, or the last sellers sell. To Livermore, this wasn't random. He saw it as the psychological climax, the moment when the crowd's emotional fuel finally runs out. And here's where the real challenge begins. Because when that moment arrives, the chart will not politely announce, "Hey, this is the top," or "This is the bottom." No, instead, it will disguise itself. It will hide behind fear-driven spikes, trap candles, fake breakouts, sudden bursts of volume, false confidence from recent profits. These moments feel noisy, confusing, and fast. And that is exactly why most traders get blindsided. But Livermore didn't see chaos. He saw a pattern, a human pattern, a repeatable psychological war playing out in price. The first rule he lived by. Livermore's approach to spotting reversals didn't start with signals. It started with sitting still. That's the part traders hate to hear. He waited. He watched. He let the trend prove exhaustion, not just suggest it. His famous words echo like a lighthouse beam through every market storm. The big money is not in the buying and selling, but in the waiting. Why? Because reversals reveal themselves slowly, like a slow crack forming inside a dam. You won't see the big break until the structure has already failed internally. And that's what he taught. Trend reversals must show structural weakness before you act. Volume shifts, failed follow-throughs, false breakouts, emotional exhaustion in the crowd, smart money, quietly positioning. These were the clues he hunted. The moment of truth. Now imagine yourself standing at the edge of a trend that's been running for weeks. Your profits look good. Everything feels safe. But beneath the surface, tiny cracks have already formed. This is where 99% of traders lose their edge. Their vision gets blurred by greed, disbelief, comfort, or hope. Livermore, however, had trained himself to do something different. He trusted the tape, not his emotions. He said, "A market does not turn because it is tired. It turns when the underlying conditions change." And that's the heart of what this video is about. learning to see those underlying changes before the crowd sees them. Because when you can spot a reversal early, you don't chase, you don't panic, you don't guess, you anticipate, you act with purpose, and you finally step into the mindset that produces real longevity in this game. This is the foundation. Now we're going deeper. Before I take you into the cinematic conclusion, where I'll give you the emotional, philosophical, and practical blueprint Livermore used to execute trend reversals with precision. Let me ask you, a trend reversal is not a signal. It's a moment of truth. The market revealing what it really is, not what you hoped it would be. Before we conclude this journey, I want you to think about one thing. The last time you knew something was changing in the market, but you hesitated. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was certainty. Maybe it was pride. What held you back? Tell me in the comments, because awareness is the beginning of every trader's transformation. Now, let me bring you into the final chapter, the part where Jesse Livermore's wisdom stops being philosophy and becomes a living, breathing tool inside your hands. This is the cinematic ending, not a goodbye, but the spark before your next evolution as a trader. The moment every trader waits for and fears. There is a silence before a trend reversal. Not literal silence, but psychological silence. The crowd grows. Confident, too confident. Volume becomes unstable. Movements lose conviction. The market feels like a stretched rope, beginning to fray strand by strand. And deep inside, if you're honest, you can feel it. Livermore called this the twilight zone of a trend. The final glow of sunlight before darkness shifts the landscape, he said. It is the change in the character of price that signals the reversal, not the reversal itself. This is where the amateur makes the fatal mistake. They wait for the reversal to be obvious. The professional anticipates it before it becomes undeniable. But anticipation is not guessing. Anticipation is reading the story the tape is telling and realizing the chapter is coming to an end. The emotional reconciliation. Let me speak to you directly, trader to trader. There comes a moment when you are staring at your screen, watching a trend slow down, and everything inside you rebels at the idea of closing your position or flipping directions. Why? Because reversals don't just challenge your trades, they challenge your identity. Closing a long position after a huge run feels like killing your own creation. Going short after a euphoric rally feels like betrayal. Cutting a losing short as the trend begins to reverse feels like admitting weakness. But Livermore understood something most never will. The market doesn't care who you think you are. The market only responds to who you are willing to become. And in that space, that intimate psychological battlefield, trend reversals force you to evolve. The final lesson Livermore left behind. Imagine Livermore standing beside you, staring at the chart, hands behind his back, eyes narrow with surgical focus. He would say, a reversal is not the end of a trend. It is the beginning of a new opportunity. Think about that for a moment. Most traders see trend reversals as dangerous, unpredictable, chaotic. Livermore saw them as gateways, the cleanest point to enter a new direction with the lowest risk and highest clarity. Because once a reversal starts, the crowd is trapped. Late buyers panic. Fading shorts scramble. Emotional traders get whipsawed. Indicators lag. News misses chaos. Livermore thrived in it because chaos reveals true direction. A trend reversal is the moment when the market drops the mask and shows its real face. How modern traders can apply THIS right now. Here is the distilled essence, the cinematic final frame of this documentary. 1. Watch structure before price. A trend cracks internally long before it reverses externally. Don't rush. Don't predict. Observe. 2. Volume is the pulse of emotion. When volume shifts behavior, emotion shifts behavior, and emotion creates reversals. 3. Ignore indicators until the end. Indicators are rearview mirrors. Livermore studied the windshield. 4. Price must act wrong before a trend ends. A strong trend suddenly failing to follow through is the first whisper of change. 5. Never assume. Let the market confirm the story. A single candle means nothing. A change in behavior means everything. You don't need perfection. You need perception. Now picture this. The trading floor is dark. Only your screen is glowing. Your chair creaks softly as you lean in. The chart begins to shift slowly. At first, then unmistakably, and suddenly, you don't feel fear. You feel clarity, because now you're not guessing, you're not hoping, you're not reacting. You are doing what Jesse Livermore mastered. You are reading the truth behind the price. You are spotting the reversal before it becomes history. You are stepping into the rarest mindset in trading, the mindset of anticipation, not reaction. And in that moment, you understand, trend reversals were never the enemy. Your hesitation was, now, tell me, what's the hardest part for you about trusting a trend reversal? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your answer might help another trader grow. And remember this, markets change, trends evolve. But your discipline, your perception, your psychological edge, those are eternal. Take this knowledge into your next trade, not as a strategy, but as a weapon.